Imagine a world swallowed by ice. A landscape so unforgiving, so utterly hostile, it screams an unequivocal message: no life can thrive here. For countless millennia, vast stretches of our planet remained pristine, untouched by permanent human footprint, precisely because they were deemed uninhabitable. The air itself a weapon, the sun a ghost, the ground a tomb. This was the primordial reality of the high Arctic, a frozen frontier that should have utterly defeated humanity. But what if I told you that in this very crucible of cold, long before the pyramids graced the desert or empires cast their shadows, an ancient people achieved something truly monumental? They didn't just survive, they flourished. They didn't just visit, they carved out a permanent home, establishing one of the first enduring settlements in the Arctic Circle, a testament to ingenuity, resilience, and a profound understanding of the natural world. This isn't just a story of survival, it's a masterclass in human adaptation, an architectural marvel whispered across 6 millennia, revealing how our ancestors defied the absolute limits of existence. And their secret weapon? It was hidden right beneath their feet.
Let's transport ourselves back 6,000 years. The vast northern plains, a region we'll call the frozen expanse, stretched endlessly, bordering the glacial waters of the Great Northern Sea. This was a land of staggering beauty and brutal extremes. The summer, fleeting and intense, painted the tundra with wildflowers, but it was merely a cruel tease. Winter was the true sovereign, descending with an iron fist, locking the world in an icy grip for 9 months of the year. The mercury plummeted to unthinkable lows. Winds born from the heart of the pole scoured the land with the force of 1,000 knives, stripping away any pretense of warmth. And then there was the darkness, the chilling, profound, and seemingly eternal darkness of the polar night, when the sun dipped below the horizon and didn't return for months. Imagine the psychological toll, the existential dread of living under an endless blanket of night, with temperatures that could freeze exposed flesh in moments. How could any group of humans, armed only with Stone Age technology, hope to sustain a community in such a place? Every instinct would scream to retreat, to seek milder climes. Yet they stayed. They thrived. They called it home. For these early inhabitants of the frozen expanse, shelter wasn't a comfort, it was a non-negotiable prerequisite for life. A temporary hide tent, while sufficient in milder climates, was a death trap here. An above-ground structure, exposed to the ceaseless wind and relentless cold, would hemorrhage heat faster than a campfire in a hurricane. Every breath inside would condense, turning walls into sheets of ice. Every food source would freeze solid. To survive, they needed a sanctuary that could stand against the very fabric of the Arctic itself. They faced a monumental engineering challenge without the benefit of metallurgy, advanced tools, or even easily accessible large timber. The treeless tundra offered little in the way of conventional building materials. How do you create an insulated, windproof, durable home when the environment actively conspires against you? This was the ultimate design puzzle, a test of human ingenuity that would dictate not just comfort, but the very continuation of their lineage. And their answer, simple yet revolutionary, emerged from a deep connection to the earth beneath their feet. The solution they discovered wasn't to fight the Arctic, it was to join it, to turn the very ground, which seemed so hostile, into an ally. They realized that beneath the brutal surface, the Earth held a secret: thermal stability. While the air temperature swung wildly, the ground a few feet down maintained a relatively constant, albeit cold, temperature. It was a massive thermal battery, an insulator beyond anything they could construct. Their breakthrough was the semi-subterranean dwelling, what we now call a pit house. Instead of building up, they built down. They excavated large pits into the earth, essentially burying their homes. This wasn't just a clever trick, it was a profound act of architectural wisdom, a direct embrace of earth-sheltering principles that modern sustainable architects are still rediscovering today. By sinking their living spaces below the surface, they immediately achieved several critical advantages against the relentless Arctic assault. The creation of a pit house was an incredible feat of communal labor and precise engineering for its time. Imagine the scene: a group of individuals bundled against the incessant chill, working with primal tools fashioned from stone, bone, and antler. They would have selected a site, likely a gentle rise or a well-drained area, to prevent water accumulation. Then the digging began. With rudimentary shovels and picks, they carved out a substantial depression, often several feet deep and wide enough to house an extended family or even a small cluster of interconnected dwellings. This wasn't a quick task. It would have taken weeks, perhaps months of arduous effort, especially in ground that was likely frozen solid for much of the year. They weren't just digging a hole, they were sculpting a foundation, shaping the very earth to cradle their future. Every scoop of frozen earth, every shattered rock was an investment in survival, a direct defiance of the Arctic's will. The sheer determination required to complete this initial phase speaks volumes about their commitment to a permanent existence. Once the pit was excavated, the next challenge was to construct a structural frame that could support the immense weight of the earth and insulation that would eventually cover it. This is where their ingenious resourcefulness truly shone, as the treeless landscape offered no timber. They turned to the Great Northern Sea, their primary source of sustenance, for their building materials. The ocean, in its endless rhythm, delivered treasures to their shores: driftwood. These ancient timbers, often gnarled and smoothed by years of tumbling waves, became the main structural posts and beams. Imagine the careful selection process, the laborious hauling of these heavy waterlogged logs across the frozen tundra. Each piece was precious, a gift from the sea, requiring immense effort to retrieve and transport back to the settlement. But driftwood alone wasn't enough, especially for the crucial support of the roof. This is where the mighty marine mammals became unwitting architects. Whalebone, particularly the massive jawbones and ribs of bowhead and grey whales, were repurposed. These incredibly strong, naturally curved structures were ideal for creating robust, load-bearing frames. A whale jawbone, massive and resilient, could span a significant opening, forming a powerful arch. The ribs, bent like colossal bows, could create a domed or pitched roof structure. It's a breathtaking example of circular economy in action. The same creatures that provided food and blubber for light and heat also provided the very skeleton of their homes. This fusion of driftwood and whalebone created a framework that was both strong and flexible, capable of withstanding the immense pressures of the Arctic environment. With the structural frame in place, the true genius of their insulation strategy came to life. They didn't just cover their homes, they buried them. Over the driftwood and whalebone framework, they likely laid an initial layer of animal hides, providing a first barrier against the elements and creating a base for the subsequent layers. But the critical defense was built from the earth itself. They piled sod, peat, and earth over the entire structure, creating an incredibly thick, multi-layered blanket. Think of sod as nature's original insulation panel, densely matted layers of grass roots and soil, inherently good at trapping air and resisting heat transfer. Peat, composed of partially decomposed organic matter, is equally an excellent insulator. These materials, readily available from the surrounding tundra, were meticulously layered, creating a protective mound that rose above the ground, forming a seamless, organic extension of the landscape.
This multifaceted insulation strategy achieved several vital objectives. Thermal mass. The sheer volume of earth, sod, and peat created an enormous thermal mass, absorbing and slowly releasing heat, stabilizing interior temperatures. Wind barrier. The thick earth layer rendered the house virtually impervious to the punishing Arctic winds, eliminating heat loss from drafts. Permafrost advantage. In many areas, the ground beneath their dwellings would have been permafrost. The pit house design leveraged this by creating an insulated buffer zone. The ground beneath the house, though cold, would have been relatively stable, preventing dramatic heat fluctuations from impacting the interior. The external layering also helped to maintain the permafrost, providing a stable foundation and additional insulation. Camouflage. Visually, these structures blended almost seamlessly into the surrounding tundra, offering protection not just from the elements, but perhaps from curious predators or rival groups. It's fascinating to note that this ingenious earth-sheltering technique wasn't unique to the frozen expanse. Thousands of miles away, on a distant coastal landmass to the west, another Neolithic community, facing different but equally challenging conditions, independently arrived at a strikingly similar solution. We'll call their settlement Stonehaven. Stonehaven was also built into the earth, using stone walls and turf roofs, creating a protected microclimate within its homes. While the climate was milder than the high Arctic, the constant wind and scarcity of timber meant that going subterranean was the most logical, resource-efficient way to build durable, warm shelter. This parallel development across vast distances, entirely independently, highlights a fundamental architectural truth. When faced with extreme environments and limited resources, humans instinctively turn to the earth for protection. Whether it's to escape the Arctic cold or the coastal winds, burying your home offers unparalleled insulation and stability. It's a testament to the universality of human problem-solving and our deep intuitive connection to the planet's natural design principles. Step inside one of these ancient pit houses. The contrast with the outside world would have been astounding. From the biting winds and desolate monochrome of the polar night, you would descend into a space that, while perhaps dim and smoky from a central fire, was undeniably warm, sheltered, and alive. The interior would have been relatively compact, designed for efficiency. A central hearth, fueled by precious driftwood or blubber lamps, would have provided both warmth and light. Smoke would have exited through a carefully constructed vent or simply escaped through the entrance tunnel, though some smoke would have inevitably lingered, creating a unique atmosphere. Sleeping platforms, perhaps lined with furs and hides, would have been built into the sides of the pit. Storage niches carved into the earth walls would have held tools, food, and personal belongings. This was more than just a shelter. It was the heart of the community. Here, families gathered, shared meals, repaired tools, processed hides, told stories, and endured the long, dark months together. The warmth generated by the occupants' body heat, combined with the hearth fire and the earth's insulation, would have created a surprisingly comfortable microclimate, allowing for a sustained daily life that would have been impossible above ground. The low ceilings and earthen walls would have amplified the feeling of security and intimacy, a comforting embrace against the vast, terrifying wilderness outside. The pit house was not merely an architectural innovation, it was a societal game-changer. By providing reliable, warm, and permanent shelter, it unlocked a cascade of benefits that allowed the community of the frozen expanse to truly flourish. Year-round occupation. No longer nomadic, constantly chasing milder weather, the community could remain in one location throughout the brutal Arctic winter. This stability allowed for deeper connection to the land and its resources. Resource management. Permanent settlements enabled more efficient storage of food reserves, such as dried meat and fish and blubber, which was crucial for lamps and fuel. They could build permanent caches and retrieve supplies as needed. Technological advancement. Without the constant pressure of moving, people could invest more time and effort into developing specialized tools and technologies. Imagine more complex bone and ivory carvings, more sophisticated hunting gear, and refined processing techniques for hides and furs. Social cohesion. Living in close, stable communities fostered stronger social bonds, shared knowledge, and cultural development. Elders could pass down wisdom more effectively. Children could learn essential survival skills, and specialized roles within the community could emerge. Population growth. A stable food supply and reliable shelter would have dramatically improved infant survival rates and overall health, allowing the population to grow beyond what was possible for transient hunter-gatherer groups. Essentially, the pit house transformed survival into a foundation for culture. It allowed them to move beyond mere existence and begin to truly live, to invest in their future, and to deepen their connection to their unique Arctic world. Beyond the physical protection, these sunken homes provided an invaluable psychological refuge against the onslaught of the polar night. Imagine months without seeing the sun, the world bathed in an eternal twilight or complete darkness, broken only by the shimmering aurora. It's a challenge that tests the very limits of human sanity. Inside the pit house, the flickering light of the hearth, the warmth of human presence, and the tangible security of earth walls would have provided a powerful antidote to the oppressive gloom outside. It was a beacon of light and life in an otherwise dark and desolate world. The structured routine of daily life, the communal storytelling, and the shared labor within the home would have helped to maintain mental well-being and a sense of purpose during the long confinement. This wasn't just about staying warm, it was about preserving hope, fostering community, and maintaining the human spirit in the face of overwhelming environmental odds. Their architecture was, in essence, an extension of their collective will to not just survive, but to endure with dignity. The legacy of these ancient architects echoes through time. Their methods, refined over generations, demonstrate a profound understanding of passive solar design, thermal mass, and natural insulation, principles that are still foundational in sustainable architecture today. They were, in essence, pioneers of green building, leveraging what was freely available in their environment to create structures that harmonized with nature rather than fought against it. Their story reminds us that true innovation often comes not from complex technology, but from keen observation, deep understanding, and ingenious application of natural principles. It's a powerful lesson in resourcefulness and adaptation, showing that even in the most resource-scarce and challenging environments, human creativity can unlock solutions that seem impossible. We, in our modern world, with all our technological prowess, could learn a great deal from the humble yet incredibly effective pit house builders of the frozen expanse. They didn't have blueprints or CAD software. They had intuition, experience, and an unyielding will to survive and thrive. While much about these ancient peoples remains shrouded in mystery, their specific rituals, their exact social structures, the full breadth of their daily lives, the tangible evidence of their architectural prowess stands as a monumental testament. The faint depressions in the tundra, the scattered whalebone fragments, and the carefully placed stones are silent witnesses to a remarkable chapter in human history. They remind us that of humanity is not just one of conquest and empire, but also one of quiet, persistent ingenuity in the face of overwhelming adversity. What can we take from their story today? In an age grappling with climate change, resource scarcity, and the need for sustainable living, the wisdom of the pit house builders is more relevant than ever. The power of place. They taught us how to truly listen to an environment, to understand its challenges and its gifts, and to build in harmony with it. Resourcefulness. They showed us that seemingly limited resources can be transformed into robust solutions with creativity and effort. Resilience. Their story is a powerful reminder of humanity's incredible capacity to adapt, to innovate, and to forge a vibrant existence even in the most inhospitable corners of the globe. Their sunken houses were not just shelters, they were monuments to the enduring power of the human spirit, an architectural declaration that even the harshest wilderness could not extinguish the flame of human ingenuity. They built not just homes, but legacies, proving that even 6,000 years ago, humanity was capable of mastering the impossible simply by understanding the earth beneath their feet. So, the next time you marvel at a modern skyscraper or an engineering wonder, take a moment to reflect on these unseen heroes of the frozen expanse. Their structures, invisible to the casual eye, buried beneath millennia of snow and earth, represent an equally profound, if not more fundamental, achievement. They didn't build up to the sky. They delved into the earth, finding warmth, life, and a permanent home in a world that swore none could exist. Their innovation wasn't about conquering nature, but about understanding it, working with it, and ultimately thriving within its embrace. This is the enduring lesson from the sunken houses of the Arctic, a timeless testament to human resilience, ingenuity, and the power of turning the impossible into the foundation of a lasting home.